My neighbor is a farmer who is known to be very strong and tenacious. Every day, he wakes up before sunrise and goes to the rice fields with full enthusiasm. His strong body and skilled hands show how hard he works. Even though the sun is sometimes scorching hot, he never complains. In fact, he often smiles while hoeing the soil, as if enjoying every second of his work. In the rice fields, he moves nimbly, ensuring that each row of rice plants grows well. Every time he hoes, the hard, wet soil will be lifted, making room for the plant roots to grow healthy. He often stops for a moment to wipe the sweat that wets his forehead, but he immediately continues his work without feeling tired. I often observe from a distance, sometimes feeling amazed by his perseverance and hard work. Amidst the noise of insects and the sound of trickling water in the irrigation canal, he remains focused, working the vast land with full dedication. After hours of work, he will return home with a tired body, but his face still looks satisfied, as if he feels proud of the results of his hard work. That is his routine every day. As a farmer, he knows very well that results will not come without effort, without laziness, without giving up. Like the land that needs to be hoed to be fertile, he has also become accustomed to the harshness of life that must be lived. A life full of struggle, but also full of satisfaction after the results of his hard work grow and develop. This morning, dew still clung to the tips of the rice leaves when my neighbor was already in the rice field, hoeing with great enthusiasm. But this time, he was not alone. Beside him stood his brother, a farmer who was also known to be strong and tenacious. The two of them looked so compact, hoeing the soil with almost the same movements, as if they had been used to working together for a long time. Under the rising sun, they continued to dig and turn the soil, preparing it to be looser and ready to be planted. Beads of sweat flowed down their temples, but not the slightest trace of fatigue was visible on their faces. Every swing of the hoe felt full of power, reflecting how strong they were in facing the harshness of life as farmers. The sound of hoes hitting the ground mixed with the chirping of birds and the sound of trickling water in the small ditch that irrigated their rice fields. Every now and then, they would have small talk, perhaps discussing the previous harvest or plans for the upcoming planting season. Although this work was hard, they did it with steadfast hearts, because they knew very well that every drop of sweat that fell would bear fruit in the future. Not far from them, a woman passed by on the rice field embankment, carrying a food basket for her husband who was also working in another field. This kind of scene was commonplace in our village, where everyone worked hard for a better life. As the sun grew hotter, they took a break under a shady tree on the edge of the rice field. The older brother took off his caping hat and wiped his sweat, while my neighbor sat back with his breath still ragged. They shared a bottle of water they had brought, taking a sip before returning to work. The day was still long, and the work was not finished. But they did not complain. With the strength and perseverance they had, they would continue to hoe until the land was ready to be planted. They were the real picture of real farmers, people who worked tirelessly to ensure their rice fields remained fertile and that this year's harvest would be better than before. I slowly approached them, two strong farmers who were hoeing in a large field. The midday sun shone hotly, sweeping the surface of the land that had begun to crack due to the long drought. Among the rows of plants that still survived, they worked non-stop, pouring sweat to cultivate the earth so that it remained fertile. One of them, a middle-aged man with a sturdy body and dark skin burned by the sun, swung his hoe with full force. Every time the blade of the tool hit the ground, fine dust scattered, covering the air around them. The other, a man who seemed younger, followed behind, breaking up clumps of soil deftly, as if the two had long worked together in harmony that did not need to be spoken. I got closer, but they remained busy with their work, as if my presence didn't bother them at all. Sweat poured down their foreheads, soaking through the tattered clothes that clung to their bodies. Their breathing sounded heavy, but their hands never stopped. There was a perseverance that radiated from their movements, a form of patience born from long experience struggling with the earth. I stood a few steps away from them, observing. The smell of freshly dug earth mixed with the scent of sweat filled the air. My steps were a little hesitant, but finally I said hello. Only then did they turn around, smiling faintly before returning to work. It's very hot today, I tried to start a conversation. The older man paused for a moment, leaning his hoe on his shoulder. Yes, it's normal. If it wasn't like this, we wouldn't eat, he replied in a flat but meaningful tone. The younger man nodded in agreement, his hands still busy with his hoe. I fell silent, realizing how much effort they put into their lives. The land they worked was not just a stretch of earth, but hope, struggle, and determination. I looked at them once more, feeling amazed, before finally stepping closer, wanting to hear more of the stories hidden in every swing of their hoe. I was still stunned, increasingly amazed at how they hoed. Their movements were so light and skilled, as if the hoe was part of their own hands. In fact, I knew very well that hoeing was not an easy job. It required strong strength, extraordinary endurance, and skills that could only be gained from years of experience. The older man, with a face filled with lines of life, swung his hoe with a consistent rhythm. Each swing was so precise, as if the ground already understood exactly how to open under his power. Next to him, the younger man followed with movements that were no less agile. Although younger, he had mastered the same technique, hoeing with a speed and precision that amazed me. I watched how they regulated their breathing, taking a moment to pause before returning to work without complaint. Every now and then, they wiped sweat with the back of their hands or straightened their backs for a moment before bending back and continuing their work. Their dark skin and hardened muscles were evidence of their resilience in the face of nature that was not always friendly.